are live streaming, and we are very honored this week to have Thibault Masson, who is the founder of Rental Scale Up. And for those of you who don't know what Rental Scale Up is, go and Google it and find out. But Thibault has great content on there, does some great video interviews, does some really good recaps of big picture stuff that's going on in the industry. And not only that, he also comes with experience from having worked at Booking.com for many years. So he not only has this badge of sort of industry expert, but also has the creds of having worked inside one of the OTAs. Not only that, but he also owns a couple of properties as well in St. Bart's and Bali. So you've got like the all-round package there, Thibault. Like, I've really bigged you up. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Diane, for having me. It's a pleasure to be talking with everybody, all the TouchStay superstars and clients and friends.
Awesome. Thank you, Thibault. And now that we've framed you, let's frame why you're here and what this Ask Me Anything session is all about. So we are going to ask you a bunch of questions that our audience has asked us to ask you. And specifically, it's going to be about the role of guest review scores in listing site rankings, which I'm sure will lead us on also to talking about how you can improve your performance in ranking on the OTAs. And some of the great tips I know that you've got, and also maybe a few tricks that you're aware of from Booking Days and from the other OTA platforms. So let's kick it off to the first question. Actually, this isn't an audience question. This is more a question from me, I think, more to kind of set the scene. As somebody who's not an operator, as in I don't list my places because I don't have places, I don't really know. Do the listing sites still these days rank you according to certain things that you do? Is it quite a how do I say, a democratic listing, or do they really reward you for doing certain things? Give us a bit of a lay of the land there.
Well, first, again, as I said, delighted to be here. Bear with me. I have super interesting things to say, but I have very strong accents. So please bear with me, everyone. I promise to try not to speak too fast, and do let me know if I'm speaking too fast, right? Because I really want to bring value.
All good so far.
All right. That's a tough question. It's an amazing question, Andy. Thanks. So as you may know, when you list your property, it's really, really important that guests or would-be guests, travelers, find your property, right? So it does mean that when people are searching for a property, of course, you want your property to be on the first page that a traveler would see. That's what you really want, because we all travelers, just like, we use Google, we use Airbnb, we use Booking.com, Vrbo, and it's very seldom that we go to the fourth, fifth, sixth page, really, right? We go to the first one, second one. So of course you want to be there. Now, there's actually not such a thing as a first page. There is not such a thing as a first page. What I mean is that when you and D is going to be searching, Taya is going to be searching, I'll be searching, we are probably searching for different dates, different place, and I don't know about you, but different number of travelers. And then maybe we'll be refining a bit. We want a pool, Wi-Fi, things. So what's really a first page in that case, right? What's really important to understand is that already, given what people are searching for, the first page that a traveler will see is going to be different according to what they search for, number one. Number two, then comes into play some other things that the algorithms, or basically the ranking factors of the sites used. The first thing I would say is that what the websites, the listing site think should be ranked first. Well, they're not really charities, are they? Right? They're gonna rank first probably things that make them the most money. No surprise, we are businesses, they are businesses, right? And what really makes them money? Well, they want basically to show really high, oftentimes places where they know that will convert, right? It means that if people see these places, they will actually click on them, and there's a big chance they're going to end up booking them, And again, it's not just not bad, right? So it does mean that places usually that have very good reviews, right, by a lot of people, usually should be ranking higher than the one with very poor reviews. Why? Because they're not crazy, right? They will rank higher the better properties. Of course, other factors come into play. For example, on Booking.com, some partners can be part of programs like Preferred, where basically they pay a bit more commission. And because they pay a bit more commission, they also ranked a bit higher. It's one of the factors, not the only factors that will explain how high you rank, but it's added on top of what I said. The search criteria, maybe the quality, and then are you paying more or not? Another factor I said is that, are you making the platform more money, right? It's the conversion rate. You may have a great property with great reviews, but if you're just not available for the dates that the person is searching, you're not visible. Or if you are, think about this, right? If you're full, you're full. You're not going to show up, right? Or if people are searching for certain dates. Another factor is that maybe you are on request and not instant booking. Nothing wrong with being on request. Also, I have one place that's a bit expensive and I don't want just anybody to be there. And I need to explain how to get to the island. It's complicated. I don't want instant book, right? Nothing wrong with that. But if I'm a listing platform, I know that I would be making more money with places that are instant bookable, because it's very easy for me to track. 1,000 people saw the page, 100 people clicked on it, 10 people booked immediately, and boom, I can calculate my return on investment, right? It's like this flow. If it's on request, it's like, you may be taking some time to answer me, and then it's going to get lost somewhere in communication. It's obviously making me less money as a platform because I can't track things as neatly, and it's just not making money as fast, right? So it does make sense that some things you do, like being instant booking or not, will come into play. Again, one of the other factors. So these are things you can do. So of course, so if you choose to, so there are things that happen. We talk about this. There's probably other questions coming. Just to, again, understand and summarize. There's not such a thing as the first page in a way, right? It kind of makes sense. If your place is not available, you're not going to show up. If your place is just crappy, probably not going to show up in the first place. And if they're in a platform, you've not been making a lot of money to the listing sites, there's a big chance they won't show you first. Caveat I would just add for this one. For new places, know that Airbnb, for example, will uprank you for a while because they want to give you a chance to be visible and get reviews to get that circle started, right? We'll talk about that, but if you have no reviews, no trust, right? And if there's no trust, you get no reviews. If you have no reviews, you get no bookings, no future reviews. So it's a very, very bad circle to be stuck in. So what Airbnb would do, for example, you listing a new place, they will uprank you for a while to give you a chance to attract people. This is where great photos, a great title, description come into play, a great price at first to attract the reviews. And then it will stop this upranking that you get for a while. So that's just the factors that may influence the ranking. There's quite a few more, but I don't expand it. Let's focus more maybe on the reviews from now.
It's fascinating to hear you frame it like that, and not really surprising either. If I guess what I took away from that is think about how you present yourself on the OTA platforms such that the platform itself will get more money from you. So like you said, they're only going to put you slightly higher if they feel they're going to get more from you. And that's a combination of all of those things you mentioned. I also like the instant book discussion because I was watching a video on your website that you put from the recent Verbo partner summit where they interviewed Jeff Hurst and Peter Andrews. And for anybody that hasn't watched that, it's really good. It's about 25 minutes, so it's not very long, but it gives you a bit of an insight into where Verbo are thinking at the moment. And it's on Thibault's website, on Rental Scale Up's website. And they were saying that instant book is bringing 20% more bookings. And they're not going to insist on it, but they're certainly trying to strongly encourage switching on that. And it talks to that point again about, what brings the platform more bookings. It's an interesting perspective. But yes, let's move on. Let's talk about reviews. So we had, in fact, before reviews, let's talk about, there's a follow-up question to the one I asked. A lady called Christine wrote in and said, what would be the top 3 things that you would need to do every day to keep your ranking higher in the search engines?
I think it's a great question because, so prior to working at booking.com, I had I still have my properties, but I was like really, I was like, what do I need to do every day to exact same question on my mind, right? And hopefully the answer is like, you don't have to do stuff every day, right? What I mean is that for 2 reasons, right? Hopefully, if your property is not new, you've had enough reviews in the past 2 years, for example, that you can count on the power of these reviews for you to look great, right? You have taken great photos, you have a great title, a good description that hopefully you don't have to tweak every day. From time to time, of course, right? Just improve stuff and improve, but you don't, and great photos, a great title, a great price, that's a key thing to get bookings, right? And this, you don't necessarily have to tweak every day for the property description, the title, and the photos, right? It's very important, key. I mean, the photos, it sounds very basic. Everybody repeats it, but it's true. Photos are just like, it's a key factor for bookings. Now, things you can do every day as well. The difference is that now there's some software that can help you, right? For example, what the listing site will care about is that your listing is accurate, and the details are recent. What I mean by that is that what they don't want is for one of the guests to book something and for you to say, oh gosh, sorry, I forgot the price is wrong. I just didn't update it. And there's like this conversation and they lose a booking. Remember, what they care about is things that are super straightforward, they can convert immediately, track the booking and make sure they have return on investment. And also, they don't want any costs. And a cost is like whenever you have to start involving the customer service, you become a source of cost, right? You become a source of cost. And it does mean that I'm not saying it's going to automatically influence the ranking, not like this, right? It may do if there's a lot of complaints around you. A lot of complaints, then you how to say things I can say. You may get flagged for bad behavior, let's say, and then you may be low ranked for a point. I actually worked at Booking.com on a program to do that, to flag some properties that were not behaving right, and they were de-ranked, we call this, so like showing up lower for a while until they fix their issues. I will go back to this, but just so you know, it's happened. So, but what you can do with software, right? So go back to software. You have dynamic pricing software from time to time, right? What dynamic software can do for you, it can update your price 3 times, 4 times a day, for example. And because the prices are updated, your calendar, your prices look fresh, recent. Remember I said they want something accurate, and they know if people are going to book, the calendar is actually open for that day and the price is actually, good. So a signal, if the price has been updated recently, it's a signal that it's good. So you're going to up rank for that. So it's a way to do it. So I'm not saying if you don't have dynamic pricing, just think that from time to time, like once a week at least, tweaking a bit your price could be a good idea, right? Just go there and I think Verbo used to have a button where you could go and just click on like, update my calendar, update my price. Remember that, right? That's what it was for. You're just signaling that, yes, it's updated. Yes, do show my calendar, my property to people because it's bookable. And Verbo, you will not be wasting your time by showing my place. So that's the same kind of thinking. So that's a good question. 3 things to do, right? So I didn't quite answer the question, things to do. There's things that are more like things you should be doing, like basic stuff, photos, description. There's things, again, that you can do with the pricing. But the last one I would say, the thing you really have to do every day. So if you're not on Instant Book, for example, you are on request, your response time is going to become crucial for your ranking. Proof, well, just think about Superhost at Airbnb, for example. To qualify for Superhost, you need to have a 90% response rate. It means basically, so I'm looking at my notes here, but Superhost respond to 90% of new messages within 24 hours. So it means every day you have to answer to any request, new request from new people in less than 24 hours. Otherwise, you may not qualify for Superhost. We'll talk about badges later, but it also means basically it's something that's probably big chance into Airbnb's ranking factor. Again, why would they show your property high in the results if you're not going to reply to guests fast or to inquiries fast? You're not a good source of money or good source of service for Airbnb, not good source of service for the guests. So that's how I would answer that. So it's a bigger answer, but trying to put, like, again, into picture the factors, and there's things you can control and things you can do short-term, long-term, and like every day is really the response time for the inquiries.
Yeah, it's a really good answer. I took away two things from that. One is, don't obsess by doing things inside the listing every day, provided you've got the basics right, good reviews, good photos, good description, good title, that kind of stuff. And you know your pricing is updated. Relax, focus on responding to those questions that come in if you're on Ask a Question rather than Instant Book. But of course, as you said, take care of, make sure the pricing's right, make sure you flag that everything's up to date. That's the first thing I took away. The second thing I took away is that point again. You're going to get to the top if you are seen as a reliable partner that is going to bring in the right kind of business for the platform, which is, as you say, making sure everything's updated, making sure your pricing is correct to avoid complaints, making sure you do respond to people. So I think it's great. It's always coming back to that perspective of my property on that platform. How is that going to generate the platform more business? Thinking about it through that lens, which is not something I'd really considered before.
And I don't want to be cynical here, right? Again, when I went to join Booking.com, a lot of my friends were like, "Oh my God, you're joining the other side, the dark side of the force, and it's horrible." But what's interesting to me is that you get to understand a lot of things, like, oh, that's why you do this. Oh, that's why they're not doing that. Oh, they're not. Sometimes you're like, they're not stupid, and something they wish they could be doing. They know it's annoying to us, property managers or owners, but some things you just can't do, right? Especially a platform like Booking.com, it's a platform that started with the hotels, and that has a lot of hotels in the ranking. So on Booking.com, not only you have to show up in front of the other short-term rentals, vacation rentals, but sometimes on top of hotels, because after all, if somebody's looking for, a place in Austin for two, should Booking.com show a hotel bedroom or an apartment? And something I'm going to add, and I don't think it's secret. No, it's not secret. I can say that. So the way another ranking factor, Booking.com, if you are a past guest, they will look at how many vacation rentals you booked in the past to determine, okay, this person looks like they kind of like apartments, for example, right? They look at apartments. So they're going to show you hotel bedrooms and apartments, and up-rank a bit the apartments, because so it's not just evil, right? They also apparently, according to your past stuff, just like Amazon.com, right? They're evil, but they're good. That's why it's just so hard to get away from them, right? So they apparently when you go to cities, you just don't book hotels, you also book short-term rentals. So let's show you an apartment here, because it's what you book usually. So that's also can influence what the user sees. So that's why I'm saying it's very hard to see what's the first page, because it really depends on who's searching and what they did in the past, or whether I'm browsing in private mode or Booking.com knows it's me. So it's very, very tricky. It's
a good point, well made. Because if you were to, I guess a lot of owners out there might search their own properties on the platform and see how they're being listed. But that's just it's just a bit of a silly way of doing it, because as you've said, there are so many external factors and very personalized factors that go into where I see me, individual guest, see your property. So I think it's a really, really well made point.
Andy, so I want to actually add on this, because we started out saying, hey, Thibault, the ranking algorithm, has it changed? But we never talked about how it was a decade ago as well. So what a lot of new folks don't realize too is that the two biggest pain points to the listing sites was the fact that owners, property managers did not keep their calendar up to date, and they did not respond to guests in a timely manner whatsoever. So those two pain points were practically almost all the customer service calls they were getting at that time, if I recall correctly. So that is why those two things are so important to stay up on, and why they give you such good push, because those are the massive pain points that travelers have with booking on listing sites like this.
Very good point. Very, very good point.
But I do have a question. Okay, so this actually comes from a review that I recently got this week. And what you see the stars first, it's like 4 stars. Oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? And then I read it, and it reads like a 5-star review. Now, in my brain, that says, ooh, this is the perfect review, because people will go look at 4 stars to see, well, what is it that the guest had a problem with? But then they're reading an amazing review about the place. Now, psychologically, I like that. But as far as the ranking algorithm goes, do those 4 stars have an effect on ranking? And then the follow-up will be, what about those 3, 2, and 1 stars?
Great question. Myself, I was on Booking.com. So first to know what's important, Diane. I mean, as a host, you see the overall review, which is a 4, and I think you also see sub scores, I would say, and how you did on cleanliness and hospitality and different factors, right? Because I think right. So guests can also score us on this, right, on these different dimensions, but they also give you an overall score, which is not tied to the sub-score about the experience. So they could give you like 5-star like reviews for 10 out of 10 on these different sub-factors. And the overall, like it's a 4. And sometimes like, for example, on Booking.com, I got like perfect 10s because it says content, the perfect 10s on every item, and the overall score is 2 out of 10 because they made the reviewer, the guest made a mistake. I know who they are. I wrote to them, hey, they got confused. Booking.com can be very confusing, and they just corrected it. So the first thing, by the way, is like sometimes people make mistakes. Remember that the sub-scores are not linked. It's not like the overall score is the average of the sub-score for some reason. To me, it would make more sense, but no, the overall experience gets its own score. So if you have something very low, it may be stupid. Sometimes like reach out if you still have time to do it. You just say, can I share? Maybe you went a bit fast. People on their phone, maybe it's happens, right? Just remember that. People are just not horrible. Sometimes they make mistakes. 1. Number two, I like what you said. It's like, because people do read the bad reviews or the lower reviews. So I think it's really I think that's the brain of a very smart host talking, like that's addressing this. But now it's good also to think about the 4 stars. What's the impact? Well, we talk about Superhost, for example, right? Kind of depends So I think most of the programs with badges like Superhost or Genius at Booking.com or Premier Partners at Verbal, they usually look at your reviews for the last, let's say, usually 2 years. They don't really take into account the oldest reviews. Can it make sense? Your place hopefully has changed. No, sometimes with maintenance not being well done, it's actually worse. Sometimes you upgraded, so they can't go too far in the past. Booking.com, I think it was 2 years. I think during the COVID thing, they just changed rules. But anyway, let's just say it's like 2 years in the past, can be. So they look at the reviews to determine whether you qualify for badges, for example, for overtime. So if you had, let's say, 40 reviews over the last 2 years, 1 review even that's super low, has not really take your average down too far that you can't qualify anymore for Superhost. Superhost, you need to have 4.8 plus. Obviously, right? If it's your third review, even a 4 could be tricky, right? Because imagine if you had 5, 5, and 4, you may fall in the 4.8. So it means you need at least 2 or 3 better reviews, much better reviews above 4.8 to make it up. So I think first thing to know, the impact of a low review obviously will be bigger if you don't have many reviews to make up for that, right? As we saw as well, a low one could make you not qualified anymore for some programs. Again, from some badges. And the badges are important, right? Because maybe some people search only for Superhost. Remember what I said, it's kind of tricky to see how people will show up. Maybe people filtering, guest travelers are filtering by Superhost. If you're not Superhost anymore, you won't show up, right? So that's really important for some of that. But let's go the reverse. If you got a 1-star review. So what I said is that, for example, I worked on a program at Booking.com, and I can talk about it because we had a press release about it, so it's public information. So I worked on a program that internally I called Rotten Apples. So Rotten Apples, what were they about? It was COVID, the start of COVID-19. We're like, you know what? Places that just like super low ratings on cleanliness. That's just not a guest issue, and it's almost a health issue. The company has to make a stand and say whether they're okay with having places that have been repeatedly scored low on cleanliness, like let's say 5, 6 out of 10 and below for the last 2 years. So basically what we did, we said we just look at the data, found these properties, reach out to the owners and property managers, and propose them ways to improve on cleanliness, and give them, I think, about 6 months, which is pretty long, but let's say 3 months first to improve. And if they could improve on cleanliness, then we would keep them on platform. But what we did, if they did not even acknowledge what we said, we would say, okay, we're going to de-rank you until you acknowledge that there's an issue, and you say you're going to do something about it. So what I mean is that a low review, be careful about that, because on platforms like Airbnb and Booking, you may get de-ranked, so show up lower, or even be kicked out of the platform. And so I'm not going to say, like, again, time to be okay. Your 4.0 review is okay, but just so you know, reviews are very important because they may trigger a lot of things like badges. You qualify for things, gamify, you qualify, good job, you qualify for this. The badge is important. It just recognizes your value. But also, on the other hand, they may trigger things like warnings. You may get a notifications in the app. Hey, watch out with the cleanness. It's very low this time. Or even you may fall into programs where people are looking at your behaviors, and I think that kind of makes sense, right? On the other hand, as a good host, you want to make sure that the bad apples are not there. So yeah, that's how it's a long answer, but just to tell you that review scores are very important, and they actually play a role in different kinds of situations on the platform.
I thought it was really interesting how you said, especially Booking, they only look at X number of years of reviews too. So those of us that have been around a long time and we've got a decade full of reviews, is there a point that the farther back ones are irrelevant?
Again, Superhost, for example, they look at your reviews for the past year, past 12 months, right? It's a signal. I told you Booking.com is going to calculate a review score. So review score basically is the average of the reviews you have. They only look at you the past 2 years for recency. So I'm afraid that yes, things, they do consider that at some point, the experience reflected in the review from 10 years ago is just not relevant anymore.
Right. But I guess to me too, is would that number of reviews psychologically to the traveler be important?
It's a very good point. Yes, it's very, very important. So it will be positive as a signal. It will not probably play out in ranking all the time. And and the other way around is true as well, as I said, right? If you have like a 0 review, that's very tricky, right? That's very, very tricky because you can't break that circle. It's a vicious circle you're stuck in, right? That's why, for example, Airbnb will tell you you're listing a new property, you should put a 20% discount on your average price to give a chance for you to get reviews and start ranking. Because again, if for example on Airbnb and Booking.com, you need at least 3 reviews to get a review score. For example, on Booking.com, if you have 1 review, you're still going to have in the results, you're still not going to have any review score displayed. You need 3 reviews for them to start calculating an average and display this score, right? So you do have to get these 3 reviews. Otherwise, you're just in this kind of limbo situation.
Nobody wants to be in limbo unless you're playing the game.
Yeah, and I will tell you something else is that big companies, I was on a panel with people of Sonder. Sonder is a very big company. They do like hotel-like apartments, the very fancy places. What they do when they have a new property, they will make sure that their best customer service team is on call for these new properties. Because they want amazing, not only do they want fast new reviews, so they lower the price for that, but they want amazing first reviews. Because again, as I said, right, not only do you need to have your 3 reviews fast to get that badge, that review score, but as I said, if you start out with 3 bad reviews, you're going to need a lot of amazing reviews to make up for this bad start, right? You don't want to start with a very bad, low score. It's horrible because it's going to be so hard for you to get new bookings, and you're going to have to be like amazing to make it up. So what they do this, they put a new customer score. If it doesn't work out, they will unlist the place and relist it in a different way. So I'm not saying you should do that. I think it's against some terms and conditions on some websites. But just that's what I mean. Take it seriously, especially at the beginning. You need to delight people. You need to attract the reviews. Lower your price. You need to attract the reviews. You need to delight people even better because, of course, all the time, right? But especially at the start, because you want to get out of that vicious circle, but you don't want to start low because that's going to be even worse because you have to make up for all kind of things. So hopefully I hope it's clear. It's really gamified in a way. That's why for each platform, know the rules, know when you get the badge and know how reviews work.
And I've seen that happen in real life. There's a house that is a direct competitor with one of my new houses, and it got a 4-star review as its first review on Vrbo. And I've watched that listing. There's no more reviews popping up. They're not getting, more bookings through. If they are, they're not leaving reviews. And you can see how that listing just languishes there on the platform.
And something to say to your point, I cut you off, sorry about that, but 4 doesn't look bad, 4 out of 5, right? You're like, come on, if it's cool, it's a grade, and a 4 out of 5 out of 10. It's pretty good, right? Actually not. That's why you have to be aware of that, right? Well, it was very interesting when I was researching cleanliness. Scores on Booking.com are on 10, right? It's like on 10 scale, a 10-point scale. And most people get like above 8. And some hosts who had a 6 were like, do you think you're doing a good job or not? It's like, yeah, I'm a 6. It's more than average, more than 5 out of 10, right? So it's very interesting. And even a 4 on the platform is bad. Like I think everybody has above 4.6. It looks like on Airbnb, everybody's above 4.6, right? Mm-hmm. So it's true that 4 seems like, so it's interesting. It's reviews are officially on 0, like from 0 to 5. Kind of looks like it's like from 4.5 to 5. If you get something lower, it's just horrible. And it's true that's what guests may think is weird for, but it's for low. And also another point, cultural background will affect your review scores. That's weird. Dutch people will score you super harshly. That's the culture. In some of the cultures, will score you a bit higher because that's also the culture. They don't want to, have anybody lose face. So when you have international guests, be ready for that. They have different review scores.
I've come across that too, where there's a guest, he's like, I don't give anybody 5 stars. I knew this is amazing. And it looks, written really wonderfully, but it's only 4. I'm like, but, and that's where I'm like, psychologically in my head, I'm like, no, it reads well. It's a 4. Future travelers will go look and see, well, why was it a 4? And it reads amazing.
I could spend hours talking about this, Thibault, because there's so many psychological aspects and so many nuances in what you said there. Just a couple of things that I picked up on. That first property, you'd said, be careful. You want that good review. And you mentioned how Sonder put their A team on the customer service desk. That to me is it. I know Sonder are doing it because they want a good review and they want to get that property going. But I also think as a host who's putting a new property in front of a guest, you need to expect that there are teething problems with that home, And how often in life do we hear people say that a issue presented to you becomes an asset if you respond to that issue well, timely, make the guest happy at the end. Then you get your 5 star, even if something was wrong. So I thought that was a really interesting thing that you mentioned there. I also think the other thing about the person that thinks a 6 out of 10 is okay, and even tying to some extent worrying about the 4 star, it's that point about as a guest when you go on to, and I think about it from Airbnb point of view, when I go onto Airbnb and I book, if what I'm faced with are 30 properties that are available within my criteria, I start to look at the relative review scores of each of them. So if somebody is a 4.9 versus somebody else that's a 4.7, the 4.9 just screams at me, provided they've got enough of the reviews. So it's interesting how the review scores can become a benchmark of relativity to another property in a certain area. And the final thing, I liked what you said about the cultural. Sometimes you just can't control people, They think in their world 4 is brilliant. I'm only going to give a 5 to an absolute rock star. What can you do about that? You can't. You can respond like Tyann did in a nice way, or you can let the future guests just see the great comments and then go, it was a 4 star, but they said everything was brilliant. They'll work it out. So yeah, really interesting. And but let's go on. So Robert had asked, which I think you've answered actually, but maybe just let us know if there's anything that you missed. He'd asked, do you happen to know anything about how other listing sites use reviews in the listing site rankings? What I think he was thinking about here was the billing we gave you as booking.com. You were at booking.com. So he's saying, how do other review sites do it? Other listing sites do it? I think you've answered it from what you said, but is there anything else that's missing that you think?
No, I think the overall picture is the same. Some details are different. The badges are different. Preferred, on Booking, Superhost, Premium Partner. But you all see in all these programs that there's something about the review score or, to Tyann's point, the number of reviews as well. So review score and the number of reviews, right? It's not just having like one great review and that's it. No, in the volume, because it's about consistency and quality, right? They don't want to take a risk. If they're going to give you a badge, they want consistency and quality. Also, why most of these badges are reevaluated, right? Superhost is every 3 months. So we talked earlier about things to do every day. Maybe it's not every day, but you better have great reviews all the time. And so I don't know if it's better or worse, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. Let's move to a different question here. It came from Michael on our Facebook group. And it's quite a long question, so I will read it all out so you've got the full context. Michael had said, for Vrbo, and in brackets, maybe other listing sites too, how do you protect your listing from a bad review if the guest left the place in bad shape, as defined by common sense and house rules, etc.? The guest knows it and is waiting to see what happens with the security deposit before making their review. Deduct anything, and given they know how important reviews are, get back with low rating and unkind words. So that's that thing of being held hostage to a guest. And just to give a bit of context, he said he faced the situation this past summer. and he couldn't get through to any meaningful support person on the OTA platform. But he ended up working the timing and messaging psychology to avoid a bad outcome. And he's curious what you might recommend there.
So I think it's a great thing. On Booking.com, you can't review your guest. I could go on like, why not? I'm just like, really? But anyway, Airbnb does that, right? And Airbnb had the issue at first because at first, Airbnb, one could start reviewing in the other and see the results, and the other would see the result and then could start reviewing, right? So what they started doing, doing this in a blind way. Like you have 2 weeks to review someone, you can do a review, the other ones and see what you're writing. And then after 2 weeks, things stop, you can't write anymore, and you can see what the other one person wrote. You're only notified that somebody wrote something about you. That's all you know, right? I think that's good because it does, of course, it solves one of the issues, which is like retaliation. That's what we're talking about, retaliation in the reviews. I must say for Verbo, I do not know exactly how it works with the damage deposit. What I mean here is that Verbo is actually the only platform when the OTA, the platform actually takes money on your behalf for the damage deposit. On Booking.com, Airbnb, you can mention the damage deposit, but it's never taken, right, preemptively from the host, the guest. Only Verbo does it. So that's why I have to think how, I don't know the details, whether this non-retaliation system of peer review works and how the flow, the timeline works with the damage deposit. I can understand the issue. And it's true that normally the system should be so that you can actually still ask money, like on Airbnb, you can still complain after you leave a review, right? So my question would be like, I don't know the rules. On Verbo, I'm guessing if you have the issue, it would mean that you can't charge back after people write a review. If so, yes, then there's a flaw in the design of the platform, right? That's what I would say. Now, we talk about psychologically, I agree. So, well, if you know it's coming, do communicate with them, try to lessen the blow, document, screenshot everything you can, and try to have all the communication go through the platform, right? If it's not happening through the platform, they may not take it into consideration. Why? Because it may not just be retaliation with review, could be a complaint against you. Why not, right? Can go further than that. If the communication didn't go through the platform, it may be harder for you to get the caseworkers to take this into consideration. So it's trickier, but get things in writing through the platform's systems, one. And two, well, get ready, if it's going to get ready to work hard for the next 3 reviews. We all get that, it happens. But if you have clear proof of retaliation, normally you should be able to say something. And I know it's hard for some platforms to step in, but yeah. So I'm not sure how much is helping, and it's like sometimes you just have to swallow the pill and go through it. I think we all did. It's not pleasant, but it's due to design for the platform. That's a real issue. So I would be curious to hear more about how it happened.
Yeah, I went through that situation last year too, is the threat of a bad review if I didn't give a refund for a certain situation. And I'm like, I'm going to hold my ground. We can't be doing this. And then I made sure that I was, ready with a response that was very factual and not super long, not telling a story, and definitely speaking to the future guests that will be reading that review. And there was another review that I did get removed because the person said, hey, if you're not going to let us in early for no charge, we're going to sit here. And even though you said you have maintenance people, we're still going to sit here and wait. And if you don't let us in, you're getting a bad review. I'm like, oh, what? Okay. I'm really sorry what's going on in your life right now that you're taking it out on me. But then I went to customer service afterwards and said, here's a situation. here's the messaging right here on the platform. I feel like it has broken these rules, because I went to their review rules and pointed out which one was broken, and then they were able to remove that for me.
Good point. There are rules. You should know the rules of the game once again, and that's, if it's documented, you can then make a point. I'm not saying going to solve everything all the time, but as good ending for you, Tyan, here to hear.
I also think knowing the rules of the game is a really wise way to think about that, because sometimes in doing the right thing, you end up falling foul because you didn't do it in the way that the platform wants you to do it. So just doing the right thing doesn't necessarily get you the right outcome. You need to be wise to that and be savvy to the rules of the game. I think it's a very good point you made. Cool. All right. The last question, I'm not sure if you're gonna have something for our listeners, Thibault, but maybe Tyan, you have a perspective on this. So Greg has asked, do you have any fun templates that request reviews from past guests? So this is about, how do I solicit a review from the guest? How do I make them do it? Like, is there a fun way to do it, or is there a more serious way, or do I, maybe there's a perspective, like how would you ask for a review?
So I'm sure Tyan has more on this, so I'm just going to be super short for myself. First, platforms, the good ones, will ask reviews from your guests, right? But the platforms sometimes allow you to change the way the review is collected. You may step in and change a bit the wording and the rest. So if you can, in this case, yes. So in a way, they have their own templates that you can modify. Booking.com has one. It's horrible in terms of look and design, but it's just powerful but too complicated. But that's just so you know, think of that, right? It happens. And now, yes, it's true that you can ask reviews. Also, when you ask reviews, remember, where do you want, to my points were like, where, okay, they want them to leave a review, but where do you want them to leave the review? Is done, I don't know, like 5 years ago, it was like, leave a review on TripAdvisor, right? How about nowadays? Where do you want them to leave the review? Another point you have in mind, if the review is left on your website, it's content you own. If the review is left on Airbnb and the rest, is content they own, Airbnb and Booking. So you're not supposed to be reusing that. So be careful with that. So, but let's speak of Tyan. I'm sure you have stuff to say about templates themselves.
Well, one of the things I do is my thank you template. It goes out the morning of the departure, and I try to catch those issues that they did not tell me about during their stay. So during the stay, I try to catch issues such as giving them a phone call and a text message after arrival, asking if there's anything wrong, is all well, can we do anything? Most people say, hey, everything's great. And then if it's open to that line of communication, if something goes wrong or has gone wrong. With the thank you email, it does somewhat of the same thing, saying, hey, we'd love to have your review. If it's not a 5-star review, please let us know what we can do to improve for the next guest. And, acknowledging that we're not perfect as much as we try to strive to be perfect. That's the first thing. And that really helps. And we find out little issues that most people would, not even mention. Like, hey, we realized a couple blinds were broken because you guys have dogs, and we're like, oh yeah, that's on the schedule to replace them. We apologize, we couldn't get to it before your arrival. But my little trick at the end is actually 5 days after departure, I send an email and I say, can you help our next guest? And what it is that review request, and it's directing them to our Google business listing and asking them to help our future guest. And I kind of direct them by saying, was it the space? Was it the kitchen? Was it the comfortable beds? Was it our digital guidebook? What was it that made your review or made your stay amazing? And kind of directing the review to what I want them to talk about.
That's terrific. As usual, Tyan, it's the thought that you always put into stuff that I like. There's the really powerful thing about that is an empathetic feeling. So having empathy with the recipient of the review request, the guest. They got back home after their lovely vacation. They're busy. They've hit the ground running. They're back into work. They're back into distractions, back into commuting. I don't want to do this. Having some sort of empathy as to their situation, so please leave me a review. It's got to be like, phrased and put within the perspective of what they're feeling. So I like that a lot. Thank you. Thibault, we're running out of time. We've run over. So I would like to bring it to a close, but if there is one more thing that you want to mention, feel free to. You have covered a lot. So I think there's a lot of mining we've done of your years of experience. But if there's something else that you think we haven't covered in terms of review, listing site ranking, let us know.
Yeah, the only thing to say is like a lot of the reviews also depend. So the reviews are influenced by two things in terms of psychology. Arrival, departure. People remember the first impression, they remember the last impressions. So it's very important. First impression, obviously, if you can craft expectations well with a welcome guide or with right messaging, that's really, really important. Not just plugging anything here, but just really, really important, because then if they have the right expectations, they're not surprised. So the first day they arrive, okay, things are as I expected, or even better, right? And then you have the last day, which is also very important. So that's so why catching things on the first day are so important. And Tyan talked about the flow and the email communication, how important it is. So that's also the psychology of reviews. They actually depend a lot on the first and the last day.
Very, very well put. And I would love to have got into expectations versus reality. And making sure you set your home up to be realistic, but that's something for another day. Thibault, thank you very much. I've really enjoyed listening to your perspective. As always, you bring a really balanced perspective and something with credibility as well. You're not just kind of saying you're an expert. You really have those deep roots in the industry. So thank you for your time. Very much appreciated.
And where can people go to sign up? Because I think you've got some type of mastermind group or something that you're forming.
Oh, wow. Look at that. The scoop is here. Yes, we have we are creating a private network where we're basically going to help people achieve results, get results, through like masterminds, taking action, making sure they are actually doing their homework and guiding them. That's what we're going to do. There's a wait list. So just like I'm a member of the group. So just like send me a message. I'm happy to add you to the wait list. And we're launching in 2 weeks from now, actually.
Ooh, awesome. Okay. And guys, we'll have that link on the show notes as well on touchstay.com.
Thanks a lot.
And yeah, we'll get you guys over there.
Great. Thanks, Thibault.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.